जय जय गुरुदेव। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् अभय चरणारविंद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस AC भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 23, text number 54. Indriyarteshu sajantya prasangastvai me kritaha ajanantya param bhavam tatapyast avabhyayaya me. Indriyarteshu sajantya prasangastvai me kritaha ajanantya param bhavam tatapyastvabhyaya me. Indriyarteshu sajantya prasangastvai me kritaha ajanantya param bhavam tatapyastvabhyaya me. इन्द्रियार्थेषु सजन्त्या प्रसङ्गस्त्वयि मे कृतः भावम् तथाप्यस्तभ्ययाय मे. Okay, let us look at the word-to-word meaning. Indriyarteshu, to sense gratification. Sajantya, being attached. Prasangaha, affinity. Twayi, for you. Me, by me. Kritaha, was done. Ajanantya, not knowing. Parambhavam, your transcendent situation. Tata api, nonetheless. Astu, let it be. Abhayaya, for fearlessness. Me, my. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Not knowing your transcendental situation, I have loved you while remaining attached to the objects of the senses. Nonetheless, let the affinity I have developed for you rid me of all fear. Purport. Devahuti is lamenting her position. As a woman, she had to love someone. Somehow or other, she came to love Kardama Muni, but without knowing of his spiritual advancement. Kardama Muni could understand Devahuti's heart. Generally, all women desire material enjoyment. They are called less intelligent because they are mostly prone to material enjoyment. Devahuti laments because her husband had given her the best kind of material enjoyment, but she did not know that he was so advanced in spiritual realization. Her plea was that even though that he was so Her plea was that even though she did not know the glories of her great husband, because she had taken shelter of him, she must be delivered from material entanglement. Association with the great personality is most important. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says that sadhu sangha, the association of a great saintly person, is very important because even if one is not advanced in knowledge, simply by association with a great saintly person, one can immediately make considerable advancement in spiritual life. As a woman, as an ordinary wife, Devahuti became attached to Kardama Muni in order to satisfy her sense enjoyment and other material necessities. But actually, she associated with a great personality. Now she understood this, and she wanted to utilize the advantage of the association of her great husband. Jai. Bhaktivedanta Swami Papads Ki Jai. Let us do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। भूतैर्महद्भिर्ययिमा पुरो विभो निर्माय शेते यदमोषु पूरुषा। भुङ्क्तेर्गुणांशो दश षोडशात्मकः सोऽलङ्कृशिष्ट भगवान् भजांसि मे। श्रीकृष्ण शरणं शरणागतं कथा अमृतं सततपीबतं। भक्तिवेदान्तमार्गपङ्क्तनं सर्वलोकऋषिदेवजनप्रसन्नं, सर्वलोकऋषिदेवजनप्रसन्नम्। Hare Krishna. So welcome once again to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So with the blessings of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan, Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, I wish to take the blessings of all my Shiksha Gurus and all the Vaishnavas assembled here today. And let us hear from this beautiful pastime from Canto 3. So we have been hearing about the pastime of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, of how Kardama Muni, after 10,000 years of penance, he was married to the most beautiful Devahuti, who is the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. And initially, Devahuti served very diligently to her husband, like she looked after him so nicely, and she served him with all her heart, pouring all her love into her service to her husband. And then after that, what happened? One day, on seeing her, that she was completely just withered, and she was just so, she had become so thin and emaciated, and she didn't even have any strength. And by seeing all that, Kardama Muni, he realized that he hadn't really paid attention to his wife. So what did he do? He then asked her to take a bath in the Bindu Sarovar lake so that she can then regain her strength and she can get back her original beauty and her luster, and like she was a princess. So then, when Devahuti was completely transformed and she got back her original form in all her, the beautiful, she was wearing beautiful jewelry and dresses, and she was decorated so nicely. And then she was now ready to serve her husband so that they could engage together and they could have children. And at that time, Kardama Muni had created a beautiful aerial palace. It was a huge mansion that could travel all around the universe. So it was just bedecked with jewels, and it was so colorful, and it was rich with all the finery that was so conducive for a beautiful, loving, amorous pastime between Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So for many, many years, Kardama Muni and Devahuti, they traveled all over the universe on this aerial palace. And they really just enjoyed together. It was like a kind of a so-called honeymoon, if we can call it. So they went around the whole universe and they enjoyed beautifully. Then after all that, when they returned back to their hermitage, then at that time, Kardama Muni, he gave 9 daughters to Mother Devahuti. So she delivered 9 daughters. And after that, now Kardama Muni is getting ready to leave home. So if we see, at the beginning, even before he got married, Kardama Muni had informed that, once he gives children to Devahuti, he will then renounce and he will take sannyasa. So at that time, now after giving 9 daughters to Mother Devahuti, Kardama Muni was ready to leave home. And at this time, Devahuti starts speaking. So now is where she is beginning to lament. She is beginning to express her sadness at the separation that is about to happen between her and her husband, because he's going to go away. He's going to leave her. He's going to leave home. And now Devahuti is really, really worried because she doesn't know who's going to look after her after he leaves. And she's saying that, all these years we have enjoyed together. You have fulfilled all my promises. You created this beautiful palace. You enjoyed with me so nicely. And they were both so satisfied. But then now she's saying that, in the course of that time, we have actually wasted also so much time. So many years have gone by, and I haven't really cultivated the spiritual knowledge. So now Devahuti is really lamenting. And then she's saying that, the 9 daughters, they will go away, they will get married, and they will go. And then who's going to look after me? So now she's asking Kardama Muni to give her fearlessness, or to be how to, face this situation. How am I going to face life after you have left? So we were hearing just a few days back as well, there was a similar verse where Mother Devahuti was saying, where is that verse? Let's look at that. Yes. So she says, Sarvam tad bhagavan mahyam upovaha pratishrutam atapi me prapannaya abhayam datumarhasi. So, Mother Devahuti says, you have fulfilled all my promises, and yet because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too. So now it's in a way Devahuti is really pleading to Kardama Muni. She is putting her heart out there. And she's saying that, like all this enjoyment, all this sense gratification, all this we have had. But then now, what I really want from you is fearlessness. And then what we were hearing also a few days back, Ghanshyam Prabhuji was explaining from the pastime of Maharaj, Nimi and Navayogendras. So where it is said that fear comes when we turn away from Krishna. So when we turn our focus back to Krishna, when we put Krishna back into our life, when we center everything in our life around Krishna, when we begin to serve Him, when we begin to serve devotees, then we get fearlessness. All our fear goes away. So in this pastime, or rather in this verse, we can see two important aspects. That is sadhu sangha, and of how sadhu sangha can give us fearlessness. Because in this verse, Devahuti is saying, not knowing your transcendental situation, I have loved you while remaining attached to the objects of the senses. Nonetheless, let the affinity I have developed for you rid me of all fear. So here Mother Devahuti is saying that without knowing your greatness, initially she was just serving him. She was a princess. And just by hearing about Kardama Muni, he's a great soul, and, she had wanted to marry him. And then through that process, she was serving him. So Devahuti, being a princess, being a Kshatriya, now it is not like she had, great spiritual education, or, like she was not like a very, she was not a great sadhu on her own. But simply by serving Kardama Muni over the years, so for so many years, she also served him like a sadhu. She also became a sadhu through that process. And now she is saying that may that love and affection and attachment that I had for you, may that give me fearlessness. So why is she saying that? Because we know that a servant of Sri Krishna is very dear to Sri Krishna, a devotee of a devotee. So now she's trying to, she's applying that. So she knows that her husband is such a great person. He is such a great soul. He is such a wonderful sadhu. So simply by serving him with all her love, with all her heart, now she is hoping that that service which she rendered to him will in turn give her fearlessness. That in turn, she's hoping will give her the knowledge to face her life ahead. And then, of course, we see how she gets Kapila Muni, who is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself, who appears as her son. So we see that Devahuti is she's a very sweet and a clever person, because she is lamenting. On one side, she knows that her husband is going to go away. And we were hearing that the greatest fear or the pain for a devotee is separation from another devotee, or it is separation from a pure soul who is serving Sri Krishna. So that is the greatest fear and the greatest pain for a devotee. Why? Because without sadhu sangha, our life becomes a bit, it's full of void. It's like nothing. Because without sadhu sangha, getting the presence of Krishna into our life becomes a big challenge. Because simply by associating with devotees, having sadhu sangha, what happens? We rub off their qualities on us because they are serving Krishna. So we learn something from them every single day. So, for example, when we come to the temple, we can see when devotees are all, working together, they're all learning something from each other. So we can see all these Matajis, they're all, making beautiful garlands, and they are in turn learning from each other. They are inspiring each other. So, like that, we see that a devotee of a devotee is very dear to Sri Krishna. And that is what Devahuti is trying to, she's trying to appeal for that right now. So we see in the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. When Durvasa Muni had offended Ambarish Maharaj, and when he had created this huge fiery demon, that was chasing Ambarish Maharaj. And at that time, what happened? Lord Vishnu, to protect his devotee, he sends his Sudarshan Chakra. And the Sudarshan Chakra, it immediately burns down the fiery demon. And then it starts chasing Durvasa Muni. And at that time, what does Durvasa Muni do? He goes to Lord Brahma, and then he goes to Lord Shiva. And all of them say, we are sorry, we cannot protect you. We are helpless. Please go to Lord Vishnu. And then when he goes to Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha, he says that not even I can give you protection. You have to go back to my devotee. So there the Lord says, Aham bhakta paradhino hya asvatantra iva dvija sadhubhir grashta hridayo bhaktair bhakta jana priyaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee, even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. So this is the beautiful point that we are trying to see in today's verse, that even those who are devotees of the Lord's devotees are very dear to the Lord. We know how in the Damodar pastime, Sri Krishna as little Damodar, he comes completely under the control of Mother Yashoda. So Mother Yashoda's love for Damodar simply brings him under her control. So like that, when devotees are serving the Lord with all their heart, with such sincerity and with dedication and with that one-point determination, then what happens? Sri Krishna happily takes a seat in their heart. Of course, Krishna is present in everyone's heart, but it's just that the extent that they can perceive Krishna becomes more. Krishna is equally present in everyone's heart. But the more someone does more service to Krishna and the more purified they become, then they begin to perceive Krishna more in their life. And through that, what happens? They are also able to help others on their path of bhakti. And they are able to draw them closer to Krishna. So that's what we are seeing here, that Kardama Muni, being such a renounced person, even though externally it seemed like he was just completely indulging in sense gratification, internally he was a renounced person. Internally he was completely dedicated to the service of Sri Krishna. And through that, automatically he is such an elevated soul. And therefore, Devahuti is now pleading that may that love and affection that I have for you, may that bring fearlessness to me. So in relation to this point, we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says in the, he says, Naham vipro na cha narapatir napi vaishyo na sudro Naham varni na cha grihapatir no vanasto yatirva Kintu prodhyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabdher Gopi bhartu padakamalayur dasa dasanudasaha. So Sri Krishna says that I am not a Brahman. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya or a Sudra, nor am I a Brahmachari, a householder, a Vanaprastha or a sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. That is Gopi Bhartu, maintainer of the gopis, Pada Kamalayor, his lotus feet, Dasa Dasanu Dasaha, one who is a servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Krishna. So that is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is identifying himself. And we also see this in the Padyavali by Srila Rupa Goswami. So taking instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami is saying this as well. So we see that simply by serving devotees, by sadhu sangha, by associating with devotees, we not only get to serve Krishna and please him, because we cannot directly serve Krishna. We are not qualified. We are not eligible. So by serving devotees, then when those devotees serve Krishna, and through there's a beautiful pathway. So by serving our Guru, then our Guru takes our service and he offers it to Krishna. So by doing that, not only do we please Krishna, but as a byproduct of that, all our lamentation, our worries, our fear of anything, everything just disappears. Shoka, moha, bhaya, paha. We've heard that. So we may have different types of fear in our life, isn't it? Everyone is, they experience fear at some point in life about something or the other. It could be, fear of loss of wealth. Someone might be so rich and they are constantly looking, whether their money is still safe, it is still sitting with them or what. And people may fear about loss of a loved one. They're someone whom they dearly love. It could be their parent, or it could be their partner, or it could be their dear friend. When someone dies, then there is a before that they become very anxious. Say for example, if somebody is very sick, then they become anxious. What will happen if this person dies? And they begin to get fear. Or sometimes it's their own body. What happens, suddenly if I'm ill and then if I just die, so then again there is fear, there is anxiety. So in all this, what happens, what we hear is, what we see in Srimad Bhagavatam is, now all this fear comes because of our attachment to our body. It is because of our temporary understanding and identification with the body that is giving us all this fear. So we see in the pastime of Maharaj Nimi, who's taking instructions from the Nava Yogendras, where the Nava Yogendras, the sons of Rishabdev, they instruct Maharaj Nimi on the principles of devotional service. And there they say, Manye kutaschid bhayam achyutasya padambujopasanamatra nityam udvigna buddher asadatma bhavat vishwatmana yatra nivartate bihi. So there the Yogendras are saying, I consider that one whose intelligence is constantly disturbed by his falsely identifying himself with the temporary material world can achieve real freedom from fear only by worshipping the lotus feet of the infallible Supreme Lord. In such devotional service, all fear ceases entirely. So here the Yogendras are saying that only by worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, we can get rid of our fear. It could be of anything, whatever our different types of, fear may be. And we also see that Lord Brahma says this in his, when he's just about to begin creation, in his prayers for, to get his strength to begin creation. Lord Brahma says that people have different anxieties because they don't take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So what does Lord Brahma says? Tavad dravina deha suhrin nimittam shoka spruha paribhavo vipulascha lobaha tavan mametya sadavagraha arti moolam yavan nathengrima bhayam pravranita lokaha. So again, Lord Brahma is saying, O my Lord, the people of the world are embarrassed by all material anxieties. They are always afraid. They always try to protect wealth, body, and friends. They are filled with lamentation and unlawful desires and paraphernalia, and they avariciously base their undertakings on the perishable conceptions of I and mine. As long as they do not take shelter of your safe lotus feet, they are full of such anxieties. So here we see that even Lord Brahma is saying that whatever anxieties we may have in life, it is only because we are not taking shelter of Sri Krishna's lotus feet. So, coming back to the Nava Yogendras, they again, in their instructions, they say that fear arises when a living entity turns away from the Supreme Lord. So the same point that we are trying to discuss. When we turn away from Sri Krishna, naturally we become fearful because we don't have the strength that comes from the Supreme Lord. We have become devoid of that. But at the same time, when we turn towards Krishna, what happens? All those qualities of Sri Krishna becomes like a ray of sun. It becomes our protection. Because Krishna is fearless. So obviously, when we take to his service, we also become fearless. And Krishna has all these, wonderful 64 qualities that is fully present, as deep as an ocean in him. And one of that is fearlessness also. Because, of course, the Lord he's the Bhoktaram. He is the enjoyer. He is only blissful all the time. Have you ever seen Krishna becoming afraid? Only when he wants to enjoy a pastime, only when he wants to have a Leela. For example, in the Leela of Damodar, the Damodar Leela with Mother Yashoda, Krishna really becomes fearful. He is becoming fearful of Mother Yashoda's little stick. But that is again for his own Leela. It's for his pleasure. And it is for him to give pleasure to his devotees. By doing all that, all the gopis, they were all looking, and they were enjoying this beautiful pastime that was happening. So only in such a situation, Krishna exhibits fear. But otherwise, as the Supreme Lord, he is all magnificent. He is, the most valorous. So when we take shelter of Sri Krishna and when we serve devotees, then automatically we get that inner strength as well. We are not afraid of anything. We are ready to face anything that can happen in our life. Because we know that if at all, anything happens, it's only going to affect my material body. It's only going to give me some pain for some time. It's okay, let it happen. But my soul is eternal. My soul is constantly in connection with Krishna. My soul is constantly in connection with devotees. And therefore, we begin to feel that protection. So when Nrsimhadev appeared, no one could go near even the Lord. Everyone was there in a way. They were afraid to see Lord Nrsimhadev's huge, the lion form that he had appeared. Everyone was just so afraid that they couldn't even go. But little Prahlad, what did he do? He was advised, Narad Muni and all the demigods, they slowly sent him, you go to Nrsimhadev. And when little Prahlad, when he came towards Nrsimhadev, what did Nrsimhadev do? He took him on his lap and he placed his lotus hands on his head. And that gives us fearlessness. So Lord Nrsimhadev's hand, when it touched the head of Prahlad Maharaj, it gave him fearlessness. So when we have the Lord's lotus hands on our head, then naturally we will also become fearless. So there's this beautiful verse. I thought it is lovely to meditate on these verses. Swapadamule patitam tamarbhakam vilokya deva kripaya pariplutaha uttapya tat shrishnya adadhat karambujam kala hi vitrastadiyam kritabhayam. When Lord Nrsimhadev saw the small boy Prahlada Maharaja prostrated at the soles of his lotus feet, he became most ecstatic in affection toward his devotee. Raising Prahlada, the Lord placed his lotus hand upon the boy's head because his hand is always ready to create fearlessness in all of his devotees. So when we come down to the temple, and when we bow down in front of Sri Radha Gopinath, and when we earnestly pray and we say, "Oh Krishna, please place your lotus hands on my head so that I can be fearless, so that nothing in this life can make me feel afraid, so that nothing can touch me, because I am under your care, I am under your protection." So that is a prayer that we can have when we come down to bow down in front of Shri Radha Gopinath. Because sometimes we just mechanically do these things, like mornings we come and then, okay, bow down, we recite the mantras, we recite the prayers, we get up, we run. Then, evening we come, we bow down, we run. But slowly we can build this in our consciousness. So every time we bow down before Radha Gopinath, we can have a little prayer. We can ask him, how can I please you, Radha Gopinath? So how can I please your devotees? How can I serve my Guru? And Radha Gopinath, we can have a conversation. Radha Gopinath, please place your hand on my head so that I can be fearless. And in the next chapter, we see that when Kapila Muni appears as the son of Mother Devahuti, then there is a beautiful conversation between Mother Devahuti and Kapila Muni, where Mother Devahuti is again asking her son Kapila Muni to instruct her on the principles of devotional service. And there again Kapila Muni says, "Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanah kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhushu krito mokshadwaram apavritam." Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that we all have some kind of attachment, towards somebody or something. Srila Prabhupada says that attachment cannot be killed. For example, when we see children, they like to play with their toys. Some of them have their favorite little doll, and they're so attached to that little doll that they would they would not let go of that doll. For example, I was like that. When I was little, I had my favorite little doll with a red dress. And, I would never leave the doll aside. When I'm sleeping or playing or whatever is happening, the doll always had to be with me. But then, slowly, as we grow and we mature, we realize, okay, the doll is just a plaything. You have it, you play, and then you leave it and just, go on, do what you have to do. So like that, even with people, we have different attachments. Naturally, it is natural. We are attached to our parents. We are attached to our partners, or we are attached to our children. So all this is a very innate quality of any human being. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying that all that we have to do is transfer our attachment from a material consciousness to a Krishna consciousness. So if someone wants to play with a doll, then what are we doing these days? We have created beautiful Krishna and Radha dolls. So that even though they want to have that attachment, They are having that attachment towards Krishna, towards Srimati Radharani. A few weeks ago, there was this little girl, Dana. She had a beautiful set of gopi dolls. Three of them, and she very clearly knows the center one is Srimati Radharani, the one this side is Lalita, the one this side is Vishaka, and she arranged all of them and she put all the garlands and flowers and everything, and she was so happy in, just playing. But what is that? Actually, it is such a very intense devotional service. The child doesn't even know what she's doing, but that is drawing her to Krishna so much. So, like that, what we are seeing here is what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. When we transfer our attachment to devotees, so that is why sadhu sangha becomes important. We are a social animal. We have been reading in our shastras. Human beings are also a social animal. We need company. We need friends. We need relationships. But then what happens when we have that within the devotees? When we take association of devotees as our friends, when devotees become partners, when devotees, when they become parents, when devotees become good friends, then what happens? That is the path to liberation. Or what is our liberation? Not just giving up everything and going away, but liberation for a devotee is serving Krishna more and more. So that's what happens when we take sadhu sangha, and that is what we are saying. And Srila Prabhupada explains that a sadhu is not someone who is merely dressed in saffron robes, or someone who looks like a very renounced person or something. But a sadhu is someone who has unflinching faith on Shri Krishna. That person is a sadhu. So it doesn't matter what ashrams we are in, or what varnas we are in, or what bodies we are in, whether someone has a male body or a female body, or whether someone is a brahmachari, vanaprastha, sannyas, whether someone is a woman, whatever. Whoever we are, and that's what we saw. Gopi bhartu padakamalayor dasa dasanu dasaha. We are none of all this. We are simply a servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Krishna. So a person who is very fixed in his mind, in his or her mind about that one is a servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Krishna, then such a person is a sadhu. And when we take association of such a sadhu, then what happens? We become fearless. Not only do we begin to serve Krishna more, but we naturally get fearlessness. So, and we've also heard this. Sadhu sanga sarva shastra koi, lava matra sadhu sanga sarva siddhi hoy. That is, even a moment's association with the pure devotee, one can attain all success. So that's why we have to be really eager to get sadhu sangha. We have to be so eager to come to the temple and get association of devotees, because lava matra, even 1/11th of a second of an association with a devotee, can give us all success. So we will end with this beautiful verse from Goswami Ashtakam, so that we can take the shelter of the Shad Goswamis of Vrindavana, because they were some of the greatest sadhus. They were constantly serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So by, the reason we are chanting all these verses, When we chant these verses, we are actually associating with those devotees. When we are chanting a verse that the Navayogendras are saying, we are associating with them. When we chant a verse that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, we are associating with the Lord. When we read Srila Prabhupada's purports, we are associating with Srila Prabhupada. So, in this beautiful verse, they say, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert